This is a beautiful bottle, ain't it? There's a new high age release from the Ross and Rachel Distillery. Wait, Ross and Squibb Distillery. It's the latest member of the Remus Bourbon family, Remus Gatsby Reserve, released to celebrate F. Scott Fitzgerald's legendary novel, The Great Gatsby, a century ago, from its events in 1922 to its publication in 1925. Let's face it, the marketing on this release is spot on. The beautiful box, the Art Deco style bottle, but is the bourbon inside worth $200, or is it more than just a pretty bottle? Let's find out right here on The Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from The Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, do all the things that you do to help grow the channel. I appreciate it. Per the brand, Remus Gatsby Reserve was crafted by master distiller Ian Sturzman and his team at Ross and Squibb Distillery. Remus Gatsby uses the distillery's finest 15-year-old reserves of straight bourbon whiskey offered at cask strength. More on the cask strength detail in a minute. First, we have a new sponsor here at The Mash and Drum. It's the brand making lots of noise in Texas. It's Still Austin. Founded in 2015 by three Austin, Texas families, Still Austin Whiskey Company is a true grain-to-glass distillery. All spirits are handcrafted using grains grown by Texas farmers that have helped craft award-winning spirits that include the flagship straight bourbon whiskey named the Musician, which is right here, their cask strength bourbon, and their newest straight rye whiskey named the Artist. Still Austin Whiskey places a high value on sustainability with a focus on cutting carbon emissions through local sourcing, increasing the biodiversity of the region through heritage grains, returning spent grains to local ranchers to feed their animals, and operating a distillery that is designed for energy efficient and water conservation. Guided by legendary master blender Nancy the Nose Fraley, Still Austin has produced musically inspired whiskeys that give a genuine expression of what Texas whiskey can be and is capable of. Every time I give these whiskeys to somebody to try, they cannot believe it is from Texas. They are that good. Want to try Still Austin Whiskey? You could purchase Still Austin Whiskey online in 20 states, including online retailers like Drizzly and Sealbox. Thanks to Still Austin for sponsoring The Mash and Drum, and hope you guys enjoy their whiskeys as much as I do. Go try some Still Austin today. So Ian Sturzman, Ross and Squibb Master Distiller, said that the Remus Bourbon brand has provided our team an opportunity to showcase the great bourbon whiskey produced at Ross and Squibb. Like the Remus Repeal Reserve series, Remus Gatsby Reserve gave us a chance to showcase some of the best bourbons we have, in this case, some of the finest 15-year-old bourbons in our reserves. Remus Gatsby Reserve is certain to be a highly sought-after member of the Remus Bourbon family, particularly given its limited production. All right, so two big standouts of this bottle. First is the proof. Now, barrel proof for this, usually you hear barrel proof, you think it's gonna be at least, maybe 110 to 115. Not in this case. You're looking at a 97.8 proof to be exact, which means, at least to me, lower tier maturation. So a lower maturation process in the lower parts of the warehouse. In cooler sections of the warehouse, usually in those lower tiers, mostly the alcohol evaporates, more escapes through the wood, lowering the proof of the whiskey left behind. Next standout is the price, about $200, limited release. Let's see how this is opened up. So when you nose a glass this old, a 15-year-old bourbon from Ross and Squibb, or MGP, whatever you want to call it, there's definitely a nuttiness quality to this. I'm definitely picking up some pecans, like pecan pie, basically. It's like molasses, pecans together. You put that shit together, make a delicious pecan pie. I mean, 'tis the season, pecan pies for Thanksgiving. But I also get like wood varnish. There's like a wood varnishy type thing coming out. To take a quote from Mr. Ron Burgundy himself, I get leather-bound books in here. Yeah, there's like an old dusty leather type thing going on. And a pretty typical note you get with ultra-aged MGP, and that's medicinal cherry. Not just cherry, but like a medicinal cherry. Getting a very fall type note, like fall dessert qualities to this. Pecan pie, all the cinnamon that's in there. But then, that medicinal cherry that kind of backs it up. This is a really nice nose. Let's see if the palate holds up. Cheers. First sip, a lot of oak. This is a big oak influence. Again, more of that medicinal cherry comes to the forefront. A lot of sweet oak. Again, leather-bound books, all wrapped up in there. Yeah, the pecan is still there. It's already a little bit drying on the palate, which is something you might expect from a bourbon this age. This has gotten real oak forward, it's gotten real medicinal cherry, and it's gotten almost a little too drying on the palate for me. I mean, all those sweet flavors and everything you'd expect from a high-aged bourbon are there, but I really think the oak and the medicinal, this reminds me a little bit of what Master's Keep 17 Bottled and Bond did from Wild Turkey, where it had some really nice bold flavors, but over time, you know, it got a little too medicinal cherry forward and even almost too oaky at some points. Not every time, but you know, your palate shifts from day to day, you know, so. Yeah, this has gotten pretty drying on the palate, at least for me. It's just sucking all the moisture out of it, the oak, the medicinal cherry. The nuttiness is there, I still get the pecan. But that apple pie, like cinnamon note I was getting on the nose, I'm not really getting that on the palate. I think it actually noses better than it tastes, in my opinion. It was really interesting on the nose, but I'm just not getting enough of those flavors on the palate. Like I said, the molasses is there. The pecans, I still get the pecan, like the pecan pie type notes is in there. But it then, like once it hits mid-palate, just kind of gets taken over by a lot of oak tannin, a lot of dryingness from it, and that medicinal cherry on the back end. Now the finish on this is short, which is disappointing. Now I know you're looking at, you know, a sub 100 proof bourbon, but whenever it comes to MGP, you always wait a little bit for that spice to kind of come back and get you. And while there's a little bit of that going on, there's not enough that's overtaking the dryness to make it interesting. So you taste kind of the pecan pie, it comes through, a little bit of like that cinnamon graham cracker, and then boom, you get this big burst of spice, and then it just goes. And then it just gets medicinal cherry and it's drying. And then you're kind of waiting for it to come back. It's really not giving you a Kentucky hug. And you know, I've had long finishes on lower proof bourbons, but this one is not doing it. Yeah, there's just, you know, unfortunately there's just not enough going on for me here. I do think it's a good bourbon. There's nothing really wrong with it, but for 200 bucks, I feel like this has to give you way more of an intense experience, especially from front to back to finish, everything. It just drops off too fast. You get a nice little burst of flavor, and then it just kind of goes away real quick. So I think this one might be kind of easy. Let's go to the final breakdown on the Remus Gatsby. All right, guys, final breakdown on the Remus Gatsby. Let's go to price. 200 bucks for this bottle, sometimes a little bit more. Secondary market value. I have seen these already for about $400 to $450 on secondary market. Availability, as you guys know, it's already limited in production, so that's an easy one. It is limited. All right, so when it comes to value, this one's a little bit tricky. I like to do value before, you know, I taste it, when I gauge it against other bottles in the market. For a 15-year-old MGP, now you can make the argument, you know, Knob Creek 18 just came out. That's around $200 or sub 200 in some places. But people are always willing to pay a little bit more for MGP. And when you consider that, 200 bucks for a 15-year-old MGP, not bad. The bottle design, the box, I would actually call that even. Now, when it comes to the most I'd pay, I'm not going anywhere above retail for this bottle. I think it's right where it should be. And after tasting it, I'm definitely not going over a retail price for this one. Is it a recommend? For me, no. It's not a recommend, and only because at 200 bucks, as much as I love MGP, there's just better bourbons out there, and it doesn't even have to be. I think the Remus 5 was even better than this one. Remus 5 from last year had more going on, a little bit more spice, long lingering finish. The oak just overtakes it. It gets a little bit too drying. You know, the medicinal cherry is starting to take over a little bit more. I think for me, no. But if any of you out there like a lot of oak influence, you like the oakiness, you don't mind it being a little too dry, and you like medicinal cherry, this might be up your alley. You might want to pay the money for it. But if you're planning on buying this and drinking it, I just think there's better bourbons out in the market. You can go look for a Knob Creek 18. You can look for, just stick with the Remus Reserves that are now 100, 120 bucks, even though those prices have gone up. I still think those might offer a little bit more of a overall better experience than this one right here. I actually prefer the Volstead that was launched a couple years ago. I like that one over this one by far, but still a beautiful bottle, great box, but this one is just a miss for me. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review for the new Remus Gatsby Reserve. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram, find me on Twitter. Let me know if you've had this yet, what you think of it. Do you think it's too oak forward? Was it not what you expected? Was the finish too short like it was for me? And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers. See you next time right here on The Mash and Drum. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.